Hello and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We are back once again for more discussions into the world of TNA wrestling shenanigans. And, they've started to update some stuff on TNA Emergence. So we're going to have a look at what we've got going on thus far. Now, it is only in a couple of weeks, so again, I feel like they are sort of going to have to pull out a lot of stops to kind of get, something decent going here. So it is one of those things that, it's a hard build, it's hard knock life, to some of this. So we've got to keep that build going. But before we get to discussing the matches, I will just say if there is anyone who is upset or whatever that I haven't posted somewhat as regularly as what I normally would have done, I have been a bit sick. I'm still a bit sick. I hope that it doesn't really come through too badly in this episode, but yes, I am still recovering, and it might mean that this is slightly delayed, so do bear with me in this time. So we are going to have to keep our eyes and ears on what is going on. Anyway, so for now, we know that there are a couple of other matches potentially coming up, but we will talk about them at the end, I think, when we have gone through the matches that have been announced. And I do feel like a lot of matches will be announced next week, if not most of the matches will be announced next week. I feel like we're going to have to talk about the Knockouts World title, but we'll get to that. So first off, this is probably going to be the main event, so this is what's sort of going to drive tickets for people to come and see the show. Moose versus Trick Williams for the TNA title. Look, I like me some Moose. I like me some big man Moose. And, he's been in TNA for a long time, and he's done a lot of stuff in TNA. Thing is, it's like really tough for me to believe that Moose is going to beat Trick Williams. And it just doesn't really make much dollars or cents or dollars or anything for Moose to beat Trick at this point. Though I want Moose to win really badly because I don't want Trick to be like our champion. I would rather somebody that's in the locker room. And it's like, if Trick was like, okay, we're not really going to put him in like NXT, and he's not really going to be, or he can be on NXT, but he's not really an NXT star anymore. He's really a TNA star now, and he's just crossing over to NXT, and he crosses over to the main roster or whatever. Cool, but that's where you've got to be at with it. You've got to have somebody that's representing TNA, not representing WWE. That's where I'm at with that. So I would rather have, and then like for heat and for some of that stuff, I do believe that it does sort of drive some people to be like, oh, we've got to get our belt back. That's our belt, blah, blah, and that's good storytelling and whatnot. So I think it's all in all good in many ways. I think we sort of discussed this a bit. It's one of those things that I just don't see it. I like Moose, like he's maybe pinned Trick Williams this week. So what? Like, he doesn't have a big reason, a big story as to why he needs to win the belt. He's already won the belt like 2 or 3 times or whatever it is. It depends if you count the time that he was champion when he had the TNA championship and he was doing all that stuff and brought it back for a little while some people were injured or some people were out and whatnot and all of this other stuff, whatever. I do tend to count it and whatnot, but it is a little bit confusing because it's, now that the titles have merged back together and whatnot, the run sort of happens in between another run, so it's like really confusing at times, how how those runs sort of coalesce or whatever. But whatever, yeah, I just don't see Moose pulling it out here, unfortunately, and that's probably again another reason why a lot of these sort of pay-per-views or these whatever you want to call them shows don't do as well, because it's not only the build to them isn't very like big or major or whatever. We've talked about this a few times before, but like if you're not going to give Moose major momentum and major things and major reasons to win the belt, like, and again, like they've just come off, like Moose and the system have just come off a big time heel run, so like you're expecting them to turn face in like a couple of weeks and then win the belt and people accept it. No, I just don't see it. I see Moose maybe doing something later on. I could see him becoming tag team champion. That's one of the very few belts that he hasn't held in the company. But I don't see him beating Trick here to get this belt. Next one, Leon Slater versus Cedric Alexander. Like, again, I don't see much interest in this as far as like story-wise or whatever. I don't think that Cedric's gonna upset Leon to beat him. That's the ultimate like catch up here, because again, he's just won the belt. You're not gonna take the belt off of him this soon. But the problem is, it is sort of like, well, who is he gonna challenge, or who's gonna challenge him, or whatever else it is, and who's gonna try to get that belt off of him. So it is one of those things of saying, well, who else is there? And it's like, I don't know whether Cedric's actually signed or whether this is like they've just like come to some sort of an agreement and said, hey, you know, you want to do one more taping or, you know, whatever. I don't know. Like, I wouldn't mind if he's sticking around, like I said, but that's the kind of the sticking wicket. It doesn't seem, or it hasn't really seemed yet like, yeah, he's going to stick around for a while, or he's signed, or whatever else it is. It doesn't really like add up for me to think like this guy's sticking around yet, because like he hasn't been around for very long thus far, and like he's in the perfect place actually right now in that X division. That's where he sort of lived and breathed, you know, in WWE, in that cruiserweight division, in that high flying division. I want to see this, and the thing is, like Cedric, he's got a lot of accomplishments behind him. He's not a legend, but I would say he's up there with some of the best, and he's sort of made his name, and he's already sort of up there. So it's like yes, you can still do stuff with him, and he's still certainly very young, and he still can certainly go. Absolutely, I'm not saying he's past it, unlike some people or whatever, or starting to like look at it's time to retire. No. I'm saying that this guy is already an established guy. You can do a lot with Cedric, but the thing that you need to do with him is elevate younger stars. And I know Leon has just won this belt, and he's, you know, like he's already been elevated, beating Moose and whatnot. But the goal isn't just to elevate Leon to being the youngest, you know, X Division champion. It's potentially to make him the youngest world champion as well. Like, we want to see this kid go from, you know, the bottom to the top. That's what everyone wants to see. We want to see these young kids that we fall in love with go from, you know, nowheresville to the top, you know, like that's the journey that we're on with a lot of these guys. And I just don't see Leon losing, because it's like, doesn't make any sense. There's again, it's not like there's a lot of motivations or whatever here behind the match or whatever. But yeah, it like you just don't like you can do this thing where you say, okay, let's take the title off somebody really quickly and then put it on somebody, and then let's give them 6 months or a year or whatever else it is to chase back getting the title or whatever it is. That's what they did with Josh Alexander when Moose beat him, and then they went on for like a few months or whatever it was with Josh chasing the title and getting stopped at every which way by somebody else or whatever it was. So that's not horrible, as long as it's a story and you can kind of see like this is going somewhere and this is why it's going there and whatnot. It's not just oh, we felt like doing it. No, we're trying to push this young person to get over and to make people feel like, oh man, he got robbed and we need to see him get back and da 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 da. You know, that's not really where it's at right now. And the X Division is in this sort of bad spot right now, I kind of feel, because it's not like there's a lot of people. I said this before. There's not a lot of people for Leon to work with. Like, KC Navarro is probably one of the very few people that's on that, like, roster that is there. And he's already kind of beaten KC as well. But KC's injured, so it's like, well, and hopefully that injury will clear up soon, or he'll be able to go again soon. But certainly doesn't seem like it. All right, so those are the announced matches. Now we have some non-announced matches, I suppose. We have Sami Callihan potentially taking on Mike Santana. So that one has been, I wouldn't say teased, but teased, I guess is the right word. So I kind of want to see that too, because, like, I was thinking, like, I don't want to see Callihan retire, but I kind of think, like, you have to think, like, again, Callihan is sort of established, like, in some way, in some form, in some fashion. He's been the champion before. I don't know. He hasn't really gotten back to that point yet. And I would like to see him get back to that point. But the thing is, it's like, what more can you do with him? Like, type thing. At a certain point, he's as over or as established or whatever it is that he's. And the style that he has is a very physical and demanding style. So if the dude wants to hang up those boots and that's what he wants to do, that's up to him. But I don't want to see him retire. I'd like to see him and Santana kick some ass, and then I want to see Callihan try to win the title back at some point. I would like to see that. I wouldn't mind seeing that. But it would be tough, because it's like, well, how are you going to get, and who are you going to get to the next level now to face Trick Williams, at Victory Road or at Bound for Glory or whatever else it is? I don't know. So that's what you've got to kind of do. You've kind of got to have this thing floating in the background of saying, well, this is what we're kind of promising, or this is what we're kind of, like, implying. Now, next week, I know this isn't actually going to impact, well, it's not going to impact it, blah, 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 whatever. It's not going to not impact it, but it's not going to totally impact it. But next week, Ash by Elegance has a match with JC Jane. I'm assuming that match is basically going nowheresville, or that it doesn't really matter the outcome in said match, because I feel like they're building to a triple threat. And I don't know that for 100% sure, but it is interesting to think about. Now, I want to talk, before I move too far into talking about that and the situations and shenanigans and whatever, is Mara Slade, I hope I'm saying her name correctly, a new addition to the Knockouts. That they did a video package for her this week, and, like, I can't remember exactly what event it was that she and Jakara Jackson, or was she Jakara Jackson, or was she, which one was she? I can't remember. I don't remember names. Okay, hang on, I'm gonna have to look it up. Mara Slade. Hope I've spelt it right. Let's see. I've spelt it right, but I can't find it. Wrestler. Maybe she doesn't have a wiki or something. Oh dear. Okay. Was she Jakara Jackson? She was part of that team. Yes, it was Jakara Jackson. There we go. there. I was thinking I was right, but I'm sometimes a little bit slow with some of these things. But she had a really great video package, and I really liked what I saw when she first debuted in the company, whenever that was. I can't remember, as I said. Um, and I thought that this girl has potential. She has a lot of personality, and that's one of the biggest things that you need. She has a good amount of ability in the ring, from what I got to see from her, from the few times that I got to see her wrestle at that time, um, and whatnot. So I do think that she could be a big player in the Knockouts division in the future. I really liked the video package they gave her. I really liked the recent match, the debut match, technically debut match as far as being an active competitor. And I think that when WWE released her, for whatever reasons it was, apparently it was because she wasn't good enough or whatever it was. I don't know exactly the details. A lot of the NXT quote unquote releases were because they weren't quote unquote good enough or whatever else it was. I think that they are either dumb or stupid, or both, because this girl has got something and I am very interested to see it. I would love to actually kind of see her and friggin' what's the name? And Tasha Steeles, because both of those girls have some spice to them. They have some real character to them, and I really like that. But they're also really good wrestlers. So I want to kind of see more from her. She's still fairly young, but though she's actually 30. But like, I still think that she has a long potential in this company for a few more years. So I would like to see something with her down the line, certainly. And yeah, I just wanted to mention that because I do think that it is important to shout out, what's going on and how it's all going on and things like that. So, but anyway, so in regards to that potential, now it's not confirmed, of course. Now, of course, I could go on spoilers and look it up, but I'm not going to. Um, it is who would win, and I would say that JC is going to retain. Either way, it doesn't really matter what else is going on. Right now, JC has just won that title, so there's no real way somebody's going to win that title. I just don't see that being, realistically the way things would go down. So we're not really going to see a title change for, at least until Bound for Glory, if not longer. And the same thing for kind of the world title. We're probably not going to see a title change until Bound for Glory there either. So I kind of feel like maybe you could have some potential of saying, well, somebody wins it in NXT, but I think that doesn't make any goddamn sense, because like, what are you doing when you're saying, oh, we're going to have our NXT guy or gal or whatever lose in NXT? Like, yeah, sure, if you're going to say, oh, yeah, but it's leading to something else later on or whatever, cool. You're not going to say that when you're saying, oh, wow, cool, let's do that. You're going to say that of saying, okay, well, why are we doing that? Why are we having some, like, when you're TNA and you're saying we're going to have our guys lose the belts, or what we're going to have our guys lose, it's because you're starting this story. We're the underdogs and we've got to fight against these evil invaders. That's the story. Simple as that. So when you have like TNA going in to NXT, even if you say, oh, they're the evil invaders or whatever else it is, or no one wants you here, or whatever it is, yeah, cool, sure, but you can't really make them as much the bad guys, because it's like, well, they're the smaller company. So, and you're always kind of saying those sorts of things of saying, oh, you work for a wrestling company and we work for an entertainment company and this sort of thing, and we're superstars and you're just wrestlers and things like this. You're trying to, like, push TNA down to being like the second rate, less than. It's good heel heat, but again, it's just like that is done for a reason. It is done to say, you guys are the good guys in this situation and we know it. It's not just done because, oh, well, we thought of a good idea. In a way, obviously, yes, we did, but, the idea being, hey, we have some heels, you have a bunch of baby faces. Well, you need some heels and we need some baby faces, and we need some content and we need people to tune in and get, riled up and get invested into some of our wrestlers like Trick Williams or to whomever, JC Jane or whatever. We need these gals and guys to get over and to be made into stars, because we're going to build them into stars, and that's the point. So where are we going with that? We've got to say that these guys are coming to fight for their goal that they, took from them, So it's like, well, is that bad? Come on. But yeah, like, I do feel like it would be, like, no matter what's happening, whether it's JC versus Marsha, because that could be, again, potential, or it's a triple threat. I would prefer it to be a triple threat, honestly, because it just, I don't know. I think it'd be more interesting. I don't know. Like, if it was a triple threat, then I could potentially see, like, you saying, oh, well, we actually decided to put the belt on somebody else. We put the belt on Ash, and then we'll go from there or whatever. Like, I really don't think that it's that likely, but again, I wouldn't hate it, because at least it would be like, okay, let's go back to doing something else, or let's go a different direction. But then again, like, it doesn't need to be, because again, you can say, well, here we have all of these freaking baby faces that we have. We have Zaya Brookside, we have Leiling Lee, we have, Marsha, we have all of these people. We have, I don't know whether Mara Slade is babyface yet or heel yet. I don't, like, she's been introduced as a babyface, technically speaking, but she might turn heel soon. I don't know. You've got Danny Looney, you've got Jody Threat, you've got Indy Hartwell, you've got all of these, baby faces, and it's like, where, like, you've got Victoria Crawford, you kind of had Tessa Blanchard, but I don't know what's going on with her. Like, we've heard a lot of people saying she might be going to WWE. I don't know. But for those people who keep, saying, oh, TNA bad because they hired a racist or whatever, and all of this, well, here goes WWE about to hire one, and they're celebrating a known racist in Hulk Hogan. I understand why, but again, like, once, like, it would have been like years ago when you would have got maybe one celebration for people. Hogan got 3. Yeah, come on, bro. Nah, man, nah. But yeah, but Ozzy Osbourne, he doesn't get anything, which he should. But yeah, he wasn't really involved that big in wrestling, though he was involved a little bit, but whatever. But still, yeah, there's still a bunch of potential matches. I still feel like you've got to do something there when, like, if you're gonna put Ash in the main event match, or not the main event match, the knockouts match. Like, what are you gonna do with the knockouts tag team titles? Not that they really matter all that much, because there's no freaking teams in the freaking division. Though I did forget that you've got Myla Grace and Harley Hudson there too. So they're both baby faces right now, so you got that. But yeah, like again, like what are you going to do with them? Not that it really matters. You got the tag team titles. I don't really know what's happening there. It feels like they've kind of become an afterthought as well, though it might be the Nemesis and the Hardys again, though I don't really care that much. Though really, like since the Rascals won last week, it seems really confusing about where things are at and why things are at that place. Because like what the heck, like I fully expect the Nemesis to win, and I was like, the heck, they lost, you know. But still, like the Hardys, and like I said before with Team 3D, like I was thinking about Bound for Glory, and I know this is way away now, but and maybe we'll talk more about it when it comes closer. And I sort of talked about it when we were doing the review a little while ago. I don't really care to see them, that much for the titles. But the thing is, I was thinking like, well, the thing about that is, it's like, if you were to think, okay, well, Bound for Glory, same with Slammiversary, and same with a lot of other big shows, like, you've got to think big. Like, you have to really think big. How much bigger can you get than the Hardys versus Team 3D? Even though they're big, their teams that are past their prime and whatever else and all this sort of stuff. You cannot argue the star power that they've got. So I really think that that's going to happen for the titles, though I do feel like if you're going to have the Hardys lose those titles, you need to have them lose those titles at a big moment in a big way. So maybe instead of just the Hardys versus the Dudleys, we're going to get a triple threat match or a Full Metal Mayhem match of some sort. I kind of think that would be more likely, and then you insert like First Class or somebody like that and say, okay, let's put the belts on First Class, and then they'll go off into the sunset, and then the Hardys and Team 3D will shake hands in the middle of the ring and show each other respect, and that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's really tough to figure out what you're gonna do, because again, like, it depends on whether Casey's gonna be medically cleared or whatever else it is. It depends who else you kind of maybe want to put the belts on, or whatever else it is that you wanted to kind of do there. So that becomes the question about whether, what can we do, why can we do, how can we do. And then Victory Road's coming. Like, I think Victory Road's in Canada. I think that's the one that's in Canada. And Jeff can't go to Canada. So what the heck are you going to do at Victory Road when Jeff isn't in Canada? Like, wait, what? Now that he has the belt. Like, now you've got to do a match with Matt or with somebody else or something else. Like, again, you could do that whole thing that you kind of did before and then have, like, somebody fill in for Jeff and be like, then they lose because it wasn't with Jeff. The chemistry wasn't the same, blah, blah, blah. When they did that with Leon. But still, like, I don't know. The Hardys are a legendary tag team. So are the Dudleys. The thing that I said, I say this all the time. What is the point in them having one last match? Yeah, cool, great. Big last match, cool, great. Who benefits from it? You know what I mean? Like, who among the young cats gets over after that? Because the Dudleys, they're maybe one and done and then they're gone. And then the Hardys, like, we know that their contract runs out about that time. And maybe they can get an extension, or maybe they'll work out a new deal or whatever else. But again, there's not really that much point in thinking about, like, what do we do next? Well, you should have made them, like, lose those belts at a big time, in a big place, it's not going to get any bigger until Slammiversary or Bound for Glory the next year. And you can't have them hold the belts that freaking long. That's just, ridiculous. So, you've got to have some, like, but then again, it's pretty short for them to hold the titles from Bound for Glory, from Slammiversary to Bound for Glory, rather, sorry. So I don't know what you're going to do. And it's even shorter if they don't even held them to Victory Road or whatever else it is. That's why I was thinking, like, it's really a tough situation to say, oh, I don't want to see them for the belt. So, but then again, it's like really tough to say, well, what other big match could you have? Like, you would have to have them in that sort of a big match. Bring in some other team. That was my first thought. Bring in another team. It doesn't really matter who the other team is. Have them win the match and then run off into the sunset and have, the Hardys and the Dudleys shake hands in the middle of the ring, showing each other respect or whatever, basically, so I don't know, but we're going to have to wait and see, I think, for that. There is a bunch more other stuff. I'm feeling like they've got to be doing something for Macklin now, because again, like, it's, dude, what the heck? He's getting another match that's just random on TV with Jake something. Okay, sure, whatever. The guy that's only like one match in his whole friggin' TNA career against a guy that's been there for like ages. And like, I wouldn't mind like if they went back to turn Jake heel again, because I think like if you treated his heel turn right and you actually gave him like a good main event push, he could be something, and he could be like world title material, I think. Like I said that before, I think. But like you could try to do him as a babyface, I guess, but like he's got a lot of baggage, I suppose. He's never really won anything. Like I said, he's only won like one match in his whole freaking career there. So you've got to be playing off that frustration anyway. So it's like, well, just go there. Go back that way. Go another way. And there's barely any heels now in the company. So it's like, we can't just rely on the fact that WWE is going to feed us heels. We've got to have some heels. So, and I think like him coming out in a suit, being professional and sort of, not, whatever, but sort of doing that could work. Depends how you push it. Like, you could push anyone and make it work if you put in if you put in the time, you put in the effort, you put in the energy and all of that. But it does depend. And I did think this before, actually, and I don't think I said it, but I think I said something about Leon potentially being the youngest world champion. I think the youngest world champion was Tessa Blanchard at like 24. So Leon's got 4 years to win that title to be like the youngest champion, I think. That's pretty cool, I think. I don't know whether he can do it in 4 years, but that'd be kind of cool to see him if he could do that. But yeah, like there's a lot that's potential. So I'm just going to wait. And again, like it's one of those things, like I do these episodes and then 5 minutes later, as soon as I post it or whatever, they announce something. So I'm not going to, come back and, say, oh, they announced this 5 minutes after I posted the last thing or whatever it was. When it comes to the end of next week, I'll do another one, and then we'll see where we're at. As long as I'm assuming I'll be much better by then, but I'm feeling a lot better now. But as I said, it's day by day sort of thing, and it's crazy how one little thing can make you really so knock you so rotten and all that. But I will get back to it as much as what I can do, and we'll keep looking and seeing where we're at, because like again, like we haven't got long till the show, and they've got to have put everything together for that show by now, and like now we're going to see that on TV, and then like it's not much of a build. And the thing is, like, that's again the problem of a lot of the problem. I feel like it's like you can kind of see Santana's there. You can kind of see Joe Hendry's there. I kind of am interested between a match between Joe Hendry and Mustafa Ali. I kind of think that should be at the pay-per-view, though. It could be no holds barred or something at the pay-per-view or whatever else it is. But then again, you could have Joe lose and shenanigans and whatever on TV anyway, because that builds interest in some ways. So, but yeah. I certainly like Mustafa Ali, and I want to see him be in that main event picture too. I don't really see the point. Like, I think we've moved past the point of Kazarian really being like a top tier, like actual contender. I think that, that ship has kind of sailed. I think that now he's got to move into a more main event jobber sort of status of just like, laying down for people when they're, getting close to that point. Like same with Eric Young. It's like, all these guys, like you talk about, like, I wouldn't mind seeing Eric Young get a chance, but it's like, does it make any sense? I don't know. I kind of want to see, as I said, Callahan get a chance, but I don't know. It's tough to say. He might, like, one more big shot could be that thing that you go, oh yeah, let's do it, and then have him lose, and then he retires or whatever, or do something. Like, maybe he could retire like Abyss kind of retired, and then you had his, like, alter ego and sort of that sort of stuff come out, and then you just do more other things with him, and then you bring him back for a return match of some sort after a while or whatever. Or that, or just like here and there appearances, like, or whatever, here and there matches and feuds and whatever else. So, but yeah. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts for now on some of the goings on. We'll have to wait till next week, as I sort of said, to find out more. So I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I hope you'll join me again in another one.